What was it like on the set of Little House on the Prairie? The actress who played Michael Landon's wife says it wasn't as wholesome as it seemed.
Little House on the Prairie was the biggest thing on TV in the 1970s. Michael Landon played Pa and Karen Grassle was Ma. Charles! The perfect parents, at least on TV.
Everyone thought they knew Pa Ingalls, the kind father, the perfect husband, the man who made millions feel safe every single week. But the woman who played his wife says that man was a mask. For nearly 50 years, Karen smiled through reruns and let the world keep believing the fairy tale. Now, at 84, she has decided the lie has lasted long enough.
Grassle's new book, Bright Lights, Prairie Dust, paints the beloved late actor as sexist and a bully on the set.
Really disgusting stuff.
Remember those touching scenes of Ma and Pa in bed at the end of the show? Grassle says it was a nightmare shooting them.
What allegedly happened behind that famous prairie door is something fans are still struggling to accept. Join us as we expose the truth Michael's biggest fans never wanted to hear. The wholesome marriage America fell in love with. For 9 whole seasons, Little House on the Prairie brainwashed viewers into obsessing over history's most unrealistic family. Right at the center of the madness were Charles and Caroline Ingalls, the ultimate poster couple. Michael Landon played the muscular, deeply sensitive dad who cried in almost every episode. Karen Grassle played the quiet, steady mother, holding the entire house together. To the millions of people watching from their couches, these two felt exactly like the parents everyone secretly wished for in real life. The show came out in 1974 and instantly became a massive hit. Millions of families sat on their couches every single week just to watch the Ingalls family get absolutely battered by blizzards, deadly diseases, and the brutal reality of life on the American frontier. The whole thing was packed with aggressive optimism. It pushed the idea of a marriage built on endless patience, love, and quiet strength. Ma and Pa basically never fought, choosing instead to tackle every single incoming disaster side by side. People believed that warmth was completely real. They assumed the actors behind Ma and Pa shared the same easy bond once the cameras stopped rolling. The chemistry looked effortless, after all. Karen and Michael smiled, teased, and played a couple so convincing that millions of viewers felt like part of the Ingalls family themselves. That gentle on-screen marriage became the only version of the story most people ever knew. There was a reason the couple meant so much to people. In a decade full of change and uncertainty, the Ingalls family felt safe. They were a reminder that love could survive almost anything. Ma Ingalls became a symbol of calm and grace. Karen made her feel like a real mother, not just a character on a screen. But the truth behind those tender scenes was very different from the cozy world fans watched. The marriage that looked perfect on screen was very toxic. The actress who played the heart of the family was dealing with emotional trauma that she kept hidden for decades. She smiled for the cameras while dealing with absolute misery behind the scenes. For years, the public had no clue about the disaster happening on set because she refused to talk. It turns out that pretending to love a guy who controls the entire show while wearing a suffocating corset in the middle of a fake desert is not great for mental health. Who could have guessed? So what really happened between the woman who played Ma and the man the whole world adored as Pa? The audition that changed her life. Before she was Ma Ingalls, Karen was a trained stage actress trying to make her mark. She had studied at a famous drama academy in London and worked hard on Broadway. Television was still new territory for her. Then came an audition that would change the entire direction of her life. The role was Caroline Ingalls, and the audition felt unusual from the start. Karen later said she was the only actress in the room that day. The producers had already seen nearly everyone else in Hollywood. They were down to the wire and almost out of time. Then Karen read her scene with Michael, and something clicked instantly. He reportedly jumped up with excitement and told the team to send her straight to the wardrobe. In those early days, Michael was kind, generous, and patient with her. He was the star, the director, and one of the most powerful people on set. He could have made things difficult. Instead, by Karen's own account, he was warm and supportive while she found her footing in a brand new medium. She has even described him as an amazing and multi-talented person who carried the whole show on his back. That kindness mattered a great deal to her. Karen was nervous stepping into such a huge role, and Michael gave her room to grow. He helped her relax in front of the camera. He made her feel like she belonged. For a while, the relationship between the two leads looked just as warm behind the scenes as it did on screen. The show absolutely exploded in popularity. Little House on the Prairie shot straight into the top 10 and became one of the most watched programs in the entire country. Karen went from a struggling stage actress to a household name practically overnight. Random kids recognized her on the street. Parents completely obsessed over her. Pa Ingalls became a beloved fixture in living rooms across America. But fame has a way of changing everything. As the show grew bigger and the money got larger, the friendship between the two stars reportedly began to crack. The kindness Michael showed in the beginning would not last. Something was about to break the peace on that prairie set. So what turned a working friendship into pain? The raise that broke everything. By its second season, Little House on the Prairie was a certified hit. The ratings were enormous. The merchandise was selling. Everyone connected to the show was riding the wave of its success. So Karen did what any rising star would do. She asked for a fair raise. To her, the request felt completely reasonable. She was a lead on a top 10 series watched by millions. She was not trying to take advantage of anyone. She simply expected to be paid fairly for the work she was doing. In her own words, she felt insulted as a co-star on a hit series when the conversation went sideways. According to Karen, Michael did not want to pay her. The man who had been so welcoming during the pilot reportedly turned cold the moment money entered the picture. She has said the negotiation became deeply difficult and tense. One claim from her account stings the most. She reportedly felt she was being told she should earn about the same as the children on the show, which landed like a slap in the face to a grown actress carrying a major role. This was the exact moment everything went downhill. Before the money drama, Karen and Michael actually got along just fine. But the ugly contract dispute destroyed whatever working relationship they had left. The friendly vibe immediately turned icy, and the warmth that millions of fans tuned in to see on television completely disappeared the second the director yelled, "Cut!" It is worth remembering the era this happened in. In the 70s, women in Hollywood had far less power than they do today. Speaking up about pay was risky. Pushing back against a powerful male producer could end a career. Karen knew that, and she was not just fighting for money. She was fighting to be respected as an equal on a show she helped make great. The absolute worst part of the entire situation was the total betrayal behind the scenes. The guy refusing to give her a raise was the same man playing her loving television husband. Fans at home fully believed he loved her without question. In reality, the difference between the saintly Pa Ingalls and the greedy boss who refused to pay her a fair wage was massive. According to Karen, that ugly contract dispute was just the beginning of the nightmare. So how far would things really go once the cameras stopped rolling? when Pa turned cold. After the Rays dispute, Karen said the atmosphere on set changed completely. The man who once helped her shine reportedly began doing the opposite. According to her account, Michael started a campaign to break her down and shrink her value to the show. It was subtle at first, then impossible to ignore. One of the clearest signs showed up in the scripts. Karen has claimed that her scenes started getting cut. Her screen time shrank. Longtime viewers have noticed that Pa Ingalls sometimes had very little to do in certain episodes, occasionally reduced to a single line or barely shown at all. There was reportedly a cold, practical reason behind it, since keeping her under a certain amount of screen time meant the production would not have to pay her more. But the cut scenes were not the worst of it. Karen has also said Michael began mocking her on set. She claims he made fun of her body and her facial expressions to members of the crew. Imagine showing up to work every day and being quietly humiliated by the most powerful person in the room. Now imagine that same person is the one fans believe adores you on screen. The hardest part, by her account, was that she could not fight back. Michael was the star, the director, and the producer all at once. Crossing him could mean losing everything. So Karen reportedly tried to rise above it and keep her head down. She kept showing up. She kept playing the loving, gentle Ma. And inside, the resentment and exhaustion kept building. The situation was completely brutal. Millions of families watched Pa Ingalls and saw a perfect picture of warmth and dignity. Behind the camera, the actress playing her was getting worn down day after day. The smile fans loved was just a mask hiding absolute misery. Out of all the garbage she dealt with on that set, there was one specific moment that Karen still calls the absolute worst of all. Hollywood really knows how to turn a wholesome prairie fantasy into a total psychological breakdown. And what happened would turn the whole issue into an absolute nightmare. The moment she froze. Out of all the garbage Karen dealt with on that set, one specific situation stood out as the most painful. It happened during the scenes where Ma and Pa were filmed together in bed. To the millions of oblivious fans watching at home, those moments looked incredibly tender and loving. For Karen, those exact scenes became what she completely dreaded every single time. She has described the small bedroom set as crowded, with the crew packed in close around the bed. During those takes, Michael started telling crude, vulgar jokes about women's bodies. The room was mostly men, and by her account, they laughed along. She felt trapped there, lying in a bed she could not leave, surrounded by people laughing at jokes that made her deeply uncomfortable. Karen said she believed the jokes were meant to humiliate her completely. She did not laugh, and she did not fight back. She just sat there frozen, waiting for the whole thing to end so they could shoot the scene. In her own words, she felt almost frozen. Then the cameras rolled, and she had to pretend to be the loving wife of the very man who just embarrassed her in front of everyone. What makes this even heavier is the time it happened in. Karen has pointed out that back then, there was not even a common word for what she was going through. The language people use today around workplace harassment simply did not exist in the same way. So she did what many women of that era were taught to do. She stayed quiet, looked away, and tried to rise above it. For years, that horrible memory stuck with her. She carried the weight of those bed scenes long after the show finally went off the air. The wholesome image of Ma and Pa lying side by side as a loving couple was a total lie. In reality, it masked one of the most uncomfortable and frustrating experiences of her entire career. Fans saw pure romance on their screens, but she lived through constant humiliation behind the scenes. It is completely impossible to watch those old episodes the same way once the truth comes out. The gentle marriage that brought comfort to millions of people was actually built on top of genuine misery for the woman bringing Ma to life. On top of that, she felt like there was absolutely nobody she could safely trust with the secret. The actual damage did not just stay on the set either, because the emotional hurt followed her straight home. So, how was she able to keep smiling for the world while quietly falling apart inside? The silence she carried for decades. The misery from those years did not just vanish when production wrapped. The emotional wreckage followed her for a really long time. She eventually ran herself completely into the ground from resentment, anger, and exhaustion. On the outside, she looked like America's favorite television mom. On the inside, she was drowning in absolute misery. Karen has been completely open about another massive battle from that specific era of her life. For years, she fought a serious dependency on alcohol. The fame and the smiling hid a lot, and when the show finally ended for her, Karen pulled away from the whole experience. She left Little House during its 8th season. For a long time after that, she kept her distance from fans and events tied to the show. She did not go to many reunions. She did not hang around the cast. She separated herself from the role completely. It would have been incredibly easy for her to stay silent forever. Michael was already dead, and the show was locked in as a treasured classic. Speaking out risked completely angering the millions of obsessive fans who adored him. A lot of people would have just kept the peace to let the legend stand untouched. For decades, that is pretty much exactly what Karen did. Choosing to stay quiet while a dead guy gets all the praise for being a saint must take a massive amount of restraint. It turns out that protecting a television myth is often a lot easier than dealing with the angry fans who refuse to believe their favorite childhood dad was actually a nightmare boss. But silence has a weight of its own. The longer she carried the story, the more it shaped how she felt about her own success. The happiest chapter of her career was tangled up with some of its hardest moments. And eventually, she reportedly decided the truth deserved to be told, no matter the cost. There was one more part of the story, though, and it makes everything more complicated and somehow more human. What happened between Karen and Michael in his final days that changed how she sees it all? Making peace before goodbye. Here is the part of the story that surprises a lot of people. Despite everything, Karen says she made peace with Michael before he died. In 1991, Michael revealed he had inoperable pancreatic cancer. Just months later, at only 54 years old, he passed away. Before the end, the two former co-stars reportedly found a quiet way to reconcile. That detail matters because it shows Karen never painted Michael as a simple villain. In her telling, he was a complicated man from a difficult background. She has called him prodigiously talented and acknowledged the enormous weight he carried as the star, writer, director, and producer of a massive show. The pressure on him was real. None of that excuses the alleged behavior, but it does make the picture more human. For nearly 30 years, Karen mostly kept the full story to herself. Then, in 2021, she finally let it all out in her memoir, Bright Lights, Prairie Dust. In it, she shared the raised dispute, the cut scenes, the cruel jokes, and the years of quiet pain. She knew some fans would be upset. She knew she might be attacked for criticizing a beloved star. Her reason was simple and honest. I had to tell my story. The reaction was emotional. Many fans were stunned to learn that the warm marriage they grew up watching reportedly hid so much hurt. Some were heartbroken. Others were moved by her courage to speak after staying quiet for so long. Watching old episodes suddenly felt different for a lot of people. The gentle Ma and Pa now carried a heavier, sadder weight underneath. Clips of her interviews spread fast online, and a new generation discovered that their comfort show had a complicated history. For many longtime fans, it was a lot to take in all at once. What makes Karen's story so powerful is that it is not really about revenge. She did not reveal this to destroy Michael's legacy. She told it to be honest about her own life, her own pain, and her own survival. She wanted people to know the real woman behind Pa Ingalls, not just the saintly character. Today, at 84 years old, Karen has finally found peace with the whole situation. She reconnected with the fans who still love her dearly and was genuinely surprised by their enduring affection. The exact role she spent years running from became something she can finally embrace on her own terms. Her story is a blunt reminder that the people behind those favorite shows are completely real, that they carry massive struggles the cameras never captured, and that sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is simply tell the truth, even decades later. Do you think Karen was right to finally share her story? Or should some secrets stay buried? And did the truth change how you see Little House on the Prairie? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.